This is Richard Wolff with another response to an AskProfWolff question from our Patreon community. This question comes from Juliet, and I want to thank her for sending the question in. She wants to know about the Federal Reserve, the Fed as we call it, the central bank of the United States, whose job it is and has been for the 100 years we've had it, to keep roughly price stability so we don't have inflations on the one hand and deflations on the other, and secondarily to manipulate the American money supply so there's enough money to keep the economy going in a reasonable way, but not too much so that inflation happens. And finally, we've wanted the Federal Reserve to kind of help moderate the business cycles, these terrible every 4 to 7 years on average downturns, recessions, depressions, crashes, busts. We have so many words for this awful thing that we cannot shake. And we wanted the Federal Reserve to come in and at least moderate these ups and downs because they are so personally difficult, so painful, so costly, so disruptive. Okay, so what has the Federal Reserve been doing? Well, let's be clear. It's a creature of capitalism. It had to be established by the Congress and signed by the President, and the corporate sector of our economy, always the dominant influence, was behind it. And that's why it happened. It was created to serve the reproduction of capitalism, and that is what it does to this day, and that's what it has always tried to do. All right. What is the record? It's done it. It has kept prices often from going off the rails. We'll never know whether the prices would have gone crazy if there hadn't been the Federal Reserve. That might have happened. And there certainly were times when the Federal Reserve tried to stop it and it didn't work. The record of the Federal Reserve on price stability is mixed. But it looks as though it helped some, and so there's no reason not to continue to have it monitor prices and try to intervene by adding or subtracting from the money supply to keep the prices more or less even. When it comes to their ability to interfere in business cycles and moderate them, the record is more spotty. If anyone imagined the Federal Reserve would eliminate business cycle, well, then you're totally looking at a failure. They haven't been able to do that. We're in a terrible one now, and it's the third one of our new century. Clearly, the Federal Reserve can't prevent and doesn't look like it's really good at moderating our business cycles. The one in 2008 and the one now are among the worst 5 in the endless cycles that have characterized capitalism for 2 or 3 centuries. Well then, what can we say about the Federal Reserve? Well, number one, it doesn't make much sense to focus your anger, your upset, your opposition on that particular part of the system. It was created by the capitalist system. Its problems are those of the capitalist system, and it has had a mixed record of doing what it was assigned to do, was manage those problems, or at least keep them from destroying the system. Nothing was ever expected or given to the Federal Reserve to control or shape what's going on. Well then, some of you will say, isn't it having a big influence now? The answer is yes. It is, and that's partly why you're asking the question and why it's getting so much attention. But that's not because the Federal Reserve has done all these new and different things. It's because the capitalist system is facing new, different, and much deeper problems. We've had cycles every 4 to 7 years, but the last 2, the one in 2008 and the one now, are among the worst in our history. So the Federal Reserve has a big role to play because the problems it is supposed to help solve are bigger than they ever have been. So one of the big responses of the Federal Reserve to the crash in 2008 and now the crash in 2020 has been to do what they have always done, only more so. So the interest rates, instead of being brought down to help the economy by making it cheaper for corporations to borrow to invest, for individuals to borrow to buy the car or to borrow to buy the home, etc., we've dropped them not just a little, but virtually to zero. We've even flirted with negative interest rates. Okay? So, wow. It's an extreme action, but it's in response to an extreme problem. Likewise, the Federal Reserve has created money, one of the things it has the power to do, whether it be to print the green bills we carry in our wallet, or simply to create financial accounts at banks out of nothing, which they have the right to do. These activities, these increases in the money supply, have been extraordinary. We're now talking in the trillions of dollars. We never did that before. But that's because the problems of this economy, of this capitalism, are worse than they have been. So the Federal Reserve pumped in wild amounts of money back in 2008, and even wilder, that is larger, amounts today. So now let's follow the money. The money goes into the hands of bankers and large corporations, and it then is supposed to trickle down, that's always been the theory, and help the economy get through whatever difficulties it faces. So here's what corporations and banks are doing. Let's start by making clear what they're not doing. They're not going to hire large numbers of people. Why? Because they can't sell what they have already produced. And they know the mass of the American people, when we have 40 plus millions unemployed, is a mass of people that cannot buy anymore. You know, wages, real wages in terms of what you can buy, have been stagnant for 40 years. The only reason we've been able to buy more is because of the debt the mass of Americans were willing to take on. They can't take on anymore. They're massively unemployed. Wages continue to go nowhere. So there's no point in a corporation whose goal is to make profit to take the free money they're getting from the Federal Reserve and invest it by hiring people. They're not going to do it. They don't do it. They have no interest in doing it. And as long as we allow their profit-based decisions to govern what happens, that's the outcome we have. So the corporations are not going to invest in hiring people. And they're not going to invest in buying new machinery or any of the other things that have to do with production, with the real-life economy of all of us who go to work, want to earn money, want to go to the mall, want to buy things. We're not what they're about. They're not in the business of making the economy work well. They, are in the business of making profit for their corporation. So then where does all the money go? It goes into the one place where corporations and banks can make money these days, which is the stock market, where you can buy a share of stock, hold it for a few weeks or months, and then sell it to somebody else doing the same thing as you are at hopefully a higher price. And the difference between what you paid for a share and what you get when you sell it is a capital gain, and there's your profit. So all of that extra money has in fact produced an inflation, which is what the Federal Reserve always worries about, but not an inflation in terms of our wages, and not an inflation in terms, by and large, of the goods and services we buy. That hasn't happened yet, a real big inflation. But a real big inflation has happened in the stock market. And for the 10% of the American people who own 85% of the shares, this is good news. But for the 90% who own next to nothing or nothing in the way of shares, this is a disaster. But the Federal Reserve doesn't care. It never did. Its job is not to help the mass of people. Its job is to keep the capitalist system going. That's a system that has produced inequality and instability long before there was a Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve isn't going to stop that process. That's not what it was set forth to do. My conclusion: don't waste your energy, your intellect, and your activism on the Federal Reserve. It doesn't deserve it. It is a creature and a servant of the capitalist system. That's your problem. My problem and yours It's a system in which a tiny group of people sit at the top of every business, the owner, the board of directors, whatever it is. That tiny group of people makes all the decisions, whether you have a job or not, what the company produces, how it produces, where it produces, and what is done with the profit you all help to produce. That's the problem. And our government replicates that system. Tiny group of people at the top, everybody else is an order taker. Capitalism, the system, is the problem. The Federal Reserve is not the problem. It's a mere institution within and serving that system, which is the problem. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work, responding to another Ask Prof. Wolff question from our Patreon community.